Welcome back, my fantastic friends. It's MasterTemple here, and this is the Master Paints the Masters. In these episodes, we take a past master's masterpiece and I recreate it using my own methods and my own techniques. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at Claude Monet. So let's have a see what painting we're going to try and reproduce. And this is it, such a wonderful scene, and it's called At Cap d'Antibes, which loosely translates into At the Cape of Antibes, which is in the southern tip of France. Now on this double prime pre-stretched canvas, it's been coated in liquid white. All I'm doing is tickling just above the horizon line with a tiny touch of the bright red. I just want a pinkish glow in the sky, and this will mix with the liquid white that's on the canvas to give a pinky glow. And we know that there's going to be some sea down here, so we'll put a little bit of seawater down as well. Now as we go along this painting, what we'll do, we'll touch on Monet, and we'll touch on the painting itself, and we'll have a look into some historical facts of Monet's life as well as the painting. As you can see, I've speeded up the painting in places just for ease of viewing really. But we're just adding a little bit of, this is ultramarine blue up here in the sky. Now these are oil paints, and we can blend these on the canvas because of the liquid white that's already on the canvas. Now I thought, since we're doing a French painting, we'll have French ultramarine. Now with a big dry brush, this is a clean dry 2-inch brush, and it's one I found really great for blending the sky together. Now I didn't coat the whole sky in complete blue, I left some little lighter parts in there, so when we do finish up blending the sky, you'll have some variant in the sky, a little bit of mysterious sparkle going off up there. And every now and again we'll lose a little air out of the brush, but that happens from time to time. That happens, we just flip him off and blend him away. That's all we need to do. That's all we need to do. Now what we're going to do now is just come in with some more white paint. This is just titanium white, and just right where there's some clouds above the mountains, so we'll put some of those in. But right above that pinkish glow, we'll just add a little bit of white, not much, just enough so we can't tell where the blue stops and the red colour starts, the pinky colour starts. And of course, when we've got that white on the brush, we can just put in a few little floaty clouds up here. Remember, this is the Mediterranean, this is the southern tip of France, and we want to recreate that really warm, nice, hot Mediterranean day. Just like that, just like so. Now Claude Monet, Oscar Claude Monet, to give him his full name, was born on the 14th of November 1840, and he lived to the grand old age of 86 when he sadly passed away on the 5th of December 1926. He was a French painter, and he was one of the founding fathers of the Impressionist movement, the Impressionist painting movement. Now, as you can see, I'm just adding some sea down here. This is some sea, so all we're doing is adding some ultramarine and a bit of Prussian blue in places, tiny bit of phthalo blue. Just we'll mix the blues there on the painting. We don't have to work ourselves away on the palette. And if we pull from the outside in, we're going to end up with a little bit of a light spot right in the middle, just like that. And again, just blend it all together, and we're going to come back and we're going to add plenty more elements into this sea as we go along. There we go. So right on this horizon line, we'll just add some more white paint, some pure white titanium white, and then we can start working that towards us right in the middle of that sea, and that will emphasize that light spot that's zinging right across the water. And then we'll just blend him out just like that. Claude Monet was one of the most prolific painters of the Impressionist movement, and he expressed his perceptions of nature, especially in the open air method, like the outdoor method, plein air, I believe they call that. Now you can see I've had a bit of crimson and white to the fan brush, and I've just highlighted, well, I've just outlined where the mountains will go. And again, this is not just a carbon copy. This is going to be my version of it, so the shape of the mountains might be slightly different. The shape of the big tree in the middle will be slightly different. Now with a bit of white paint on the fan brush, we're going to scrub in some clouds. So we're just going to flick in some clouds, and we'll come right down to that mountain line. And we'll do some at this side. Again, we'll just use the corner of the fan brush, just flicking off some of that titanium white paint, just like that. Now usually if you've seen me paint before, I'll put the clouds in first before painting any of the mountains, but I just want to do it this way, show you how these are recreated. And to the bottom of that big old cloud that's living just above those mountains, I'm going to add a little golden touch to the underside of these clouds just by using a bit of yellow ochre. Just scrub in a little bit of a golden glow on the underside, just like that, and then we'll come back in and we'll blend them all together. Happy days. There we go. Just like that. Now the term Impressionism is derived from the title of Monet's painting Impression, which was basically translated into Impression Sunrise. It's Soleil Levant. This was exhibited in 1874 in the first independent exhibitions mounted by Monet and several of his associates as an alternative to the prestige gallery of the Salon de Paris. As you can see here, I'm just blending them away, mixing them all together. I've added a touch of black into that gold as well, just to add some variant into the clouds. And then we can come in and tickle it all together with a very soft blending brush, just like so. And it doesn't matter if we hit that top line of the mountains, because we're going to come back and reaffirm all that and put some nice shapes to these mountains in a few moments' time. Now Monet, he was born, obviously, I've stated this before, on the 14th of November 1840, just outside Paris, and he was the second child of Claude Monet and his mother Louise Justine Monet, both of them second generation Parisians. Now what you can see I'm doing here is I'm just using crimsons, and I'm going to be touching blues, and I'm going to be maybe a bit of red every now and again, touch of crimson, touch of blue. We're going to vary the colours and it'll mix with the liquid white, so we're going to get all sorts of variants happening in these far away mountains. Now in 1841 Monet was baptised. He was baptised Oscar Claude, though his parents affectionately just called him Oscar. And even though he was baptised a Catholic, he grew up and became an atheist in later life, which is quite an interesting fact. There we go. You can see I'm just tickling the colours about, creating all sorts of depth, shadows and highlights into these little hills. Hit a bit more of the blue in that one. And this fan brush really does work wonders when you're creating these far away hills. It really does work well. There we go. So we can carry on adding more shades of different colours of crimsons and blues and pinks and purples to these hills till we get the desired lightness that we want in. Now I just want to mention to you guys out there that my Etsy shop is now open. It's been open a week or so now, 2 weeks perhaps, and it's doing quite well. I'm quite proud of it, and I thank everybody that's visited it and purchased something from there. It really does help me out. I do appreciate that, so thank you. It's MasterTemple's Arts at the Etsy and the Etsy app, which is brilliant. Thank you. Now we were just working his way down with these colours right into the sea, right into that white paint that we put on there, Again, we've got titanium white paint that we added onto the liquid white, and the closer we get to that, the more this paint down now the mountains will pick up and will become paler as we tap harder. There we go. And we don't want to kill all that white area off. We want to leave some breaks in there, so that'll give the indication of little fog patches that are living between these hills. Now with that same dirty brush, all we're doing is pulling slightly down, and we're going to create some lovely reflections. Now if we notice on Monet's original painting, there's no reflections that I can see. I'm putting some in my representation of this painting. I think reflections are they look so wonderful. And we're just going to match the paint above, a little bit of a darker colours there and here, give a variant. Now we'll just bring all that together with a bigger brush, and then we'll gently go across all that, and there we have it, instant reflections right down into the sea. Now we're going to put some ripples on top of all this, but before we do that, there's a couple of little houses that are living at the other side of the cave, so far away you can hardly make them out. So we're just going to touch a little bit of white paint, just put the odd indication here and there of some houses, not many. Don't want to overkill, we don't want to spoil the view. Just put one or two houses here and there. Just a little bit of liquid white paint right on the old script liner brush. Now we'll put a little bit of a waterline in, back to the liquid white, and we're just going to cut straight through, like we're trying to cut a hole straight through the canvas. A little waterline. What we'll do, we'll carry on putting waterlines in this painting. We'll have a big tree there, won't we? We'll just keep doing this. We're going to work forward on this as well. It'll all make sense in a few moments' time. Now Monet's father wanted young Claude to become a member of the family firm and follow him into the family business of groceries, but young Monet had other plans. He wanted to become an artist. Monet's mother was a singer and had a bit of a passion for the arts as well, so quite openly promoted this. But as we find out later, his father wasn't too impressed with that notion. As you can see, all I'm doing is I'm adding some more liquid white right on top of that blue, that white and blue colours that we put down as the sea. We'll create all sorts of ripples and effects just where the sunlight is hitting. And we can put these wherever we think they should be, just as long as they're nice and flat. We don't want them going straight upwards, else we'll have a pretty rough sea. But I'm just going to add one or two here and there and here, just like that. And then we're going to vary the colour of these as well. So eventually, once we get round to it, we'll add some blues into this as well. There. And with a big delicate brush, all we're going to do is just bring all this together, just to take off any sharp edges that the knife's left behind. Just very gently. We don't want to smudge any of this paint. Just very gently. Pretend you're floating over that water. That's all we're doing. And you've got to paint this nice and straight as well, or else you'll end up pulling the liquid white right down, and that'll not look nice. It'll destroy the paint, and it'll disturb your eyes a little bit. There, of course, we're gonna touch some of these blues. So this is Phthalo Blue with a little bit of thinner mixed in with that. And we're just gonna go straight on top of that. And it doesn't matter if they're thick lines or the thin lines. So again, we're gonna come back in with a big blending brush and just tickle them all together. This will give a nice effect. Something I don't do often my standard paintings, but it does give a wonderful effect. Just all on the edge of the knife. So during Monet's childhood, he used to draw charcoal caricatures, which he would sell for 10 or 20 francs, and back then, that was a lot of money. That was a lot of money. That was crazy stuff, but well deserved. I bet they're worth more than any 20 francs nowadays. Okay, so we're just tickling those colours together. Just very gently, very lightly. There. That'll give the impression of some little sparkly bits that are living on the water. Yeah. See, we had a bit too much blue there, so if that happens, just put a bit more white on top of him. That easy. We can work with anything, can't we? If you get a bit too much white in that you don't like, put a bit of blue on top of it. Eventually, if you were to do this, you could build up several layers of paint and it'll become quite thick. Put some more in down there. When Monet was 16, in 1956, on the beaches of Normandy, he met a fellow artist, Eugene Boudin, who became his mentor and taught him how to use oil paints in the outdoor technique, that en plein air that we talked about at the beginning of the film. It's basically the outdoor technique. So we're taking an image that you see outside with all the light and the darks and the shadows and the highlights, and we're just recreating that on canvas, and that's what Monet was exceptional at. So we're going to have this big tree here. Big tree just right here in the middle, and then now we've got that in the way, we can start to build the stones. There's several stones that are living out here in the sea, so we can put them in without actually disturbing the tree. Now, if you've seen me paint before, and I'm sure many of you have, I would have put the stones in, and then I'd have painted the tree right over the top of the stones. But for reference purposes, I want to put the big tree in first, and then we'll put these stones in afterwards. And we're just down here, little boulders sticking up through the sea. These are on the little round brush. Now you can see the colour's slightly different from the hills in the background. This has got a bit more golden colour to it, a little bit more ochres, and again we'll come in with a bit of touching crimson and brown here, and this will create a nice little shadow effect. So we'll pick the shadow side, which are mountains in the background says on the left hand side, and we'll just create the shadowy side on these, just like that. We can carry on making lots of beautiful little stones. Little fan brush, pull the base of those little stones down into the sea, just like we did with the mountains in the background. That creates lots of nice little reflections. That easy. Just tickle them across, very gently tickling them across, and we'll come in with a knife, tiny bit of liquid white right on the edge of the knife. Put in a little bit of a splish and a splash right around the base of those stones. And we can set them right into the painting. And we'll use the small edge of the knife just to cut that in. Now this wants to be perfectly flat. You don't want the water to look like it's running uphill. Yeah, happy days. On January 28th, 1857, Monet's mother died at the age of 16. He left school and he went to live with his widowed, childless auntie, Marie. And what you can see, I'm just basing in some foreground material. On the original painting, it had a nice sandy colour, so we put some bold, vibrant colours down. I like bold, vibrant colours, as you know. So this is a mixture of yellow ochre, and every now and again a bit of sienna. We're touching the reds. We'll add a bit of brown here. This is Dyke Brown. Maybe a touch of crimson mixed in with that. Just vary the colours as we go along. We can put a little bit of shrubbery down here in this corner. So all again, just sit, same as the clouds, we're just hitting with the corner of the fan brush, and we're just lifting upwards. We vary the colours as we go along to give that that variant of colour that's going on the canvas. We'll darken this corner off. As you've painted with me before, we like to keep the corners nice and dark, whether it be dark blues in the sky, right in the very corners, or some kind of dark foliage colour down in the foreground. That draws your eye right into the centre. Again, we'll mix the colours, a bit of white there, we can touch the blues, the greens, whatever we feel like. It'll all work out for us, won't it? Yes, it will. You know it will. So Monet travelled to Paris and visited the Louvre, and he witnessed other painters copying from the old masters. Now that's a fantastic idea, isn't it? Having brought his paints and other tools with him, his palette knives and paintbrushes, he would instead he'd go and sit by a window and paint what he saw outside the window, rather than painting the old masters. He would paint what he'd see, which is wonderful. He paints nature. He painted nature. And we're just going to reaffirm this big old tree trunk. So this is Dyke Brown on the fan brush, and we're just going to pull in a nice big tree trunk, and we'll give him a big root down at the bottom, keep him upright here on this sandy bank. Of course, this has got a bit of a crook in this tree. Now, if we remember correctly, there's a big old branch that almost reaches out to the right hand side of the painting. So we'll put one of those in. And of course, once we've had some foliage, it'll extend it even further. There, just like that. And then we'll come back in with the script liner brush, and we'll have this one hanging down. Now this is Dyke Brown mixed with some paint thinner, and that'll slide right over the paint that we've put already on the canvas. And we'll create all sorts of sticks and branches and other bits and pieces. Try and get my arm out of the way so it's not creating as much shadow. And just put all sorts. A lot of this will get covered up in foliage, but some of it will show through, and that's what we're after. Now Monet stayed in Paris for several years, and he would meet other artists and became friends and fellow impressionists, such as Edouard Manet, not Monet, Manet. They were both good friends and good founders of the movement. Just add some sticks down here at the base, give a bit more depth to that. Now we could add some bark to this old tree, so with the variant of brown colours, we'll start by just touching the bark, touching the tree with a paint knife, and it'll pull off what it wants, and it'll leave the paint on the paint knife what it doesn't need, and we can move along and put a bit more. We'll vary the colours again, so a bit of darker colour, the shadow side, a bit of lighter colour on the lighter side. And when this dries, it will feel like bark. It will be wonderful. It will actually feel like bark, because we're painting it with a knife, you see, just like that. Now here's a story for you. Monet was drafted into the French military, and he was there for about several years, and his now wealthy father could have bought him out of the army, but declined to do so when Monet refused to give up painting, which is crazy, isn't it? And while in the military, he was based in Algeria, Monet only did a slack handful of sketches. He did some landscapes, some sketches of Casbahs, and portraits of officers, but unfortunately all these have been lost in the sands of time. Imagine going to Algeria and finding one of those on a map. It'd be crazy, wouldn't it? So again, we're just hitting this with a knife, a little bit of lighter colour there. We just want this edge to sparkle, so if we hit it with white, it'll pick up the colour that's underneath as we touch with the knife. Now let's put some foliage up there. So on the big old rounded brush, this is just straight sap green now. Straight sap green. We'll put some foliagey looking things up here on these branches. Like I said, most of these branches will get covered up, but some will remain, and that's what we're after. So we'll just touch. We're not painting. We're not painting like we would paint the sky. We just touch, tap. We'll vary the colours. We'll hit a bit of brown and a bit of black every now and again into that green, just to give a variant of shade to this foliage. Then eventually we'll come back in here and we'll hit some highlights. Yeah, right over that cloud. We know that cloud's there though. We learned how to make that cloud, so it wasn't wasted. Yeah. Eventually Monet caught typhoid while serving in the military, and he caught typhoid fever and went absently out leave, and eventually Monet's aunt intervened and had him removed from the army if he agreed to complete a course at an art school. But he was disheartened and disillusioned with the arts, the traditional arts that are taught at these schools, and in 1862 he met up with some friends, Basile and Renoir, and they shared new approaches to art, painting in the effects of light and the en plein air with broken colour, fast rapid brush strokes. This is what later became known as Impressionism. They shared that. Now this painting that we see on here, the Cap d'Antibes, this was done on an oil on canvas in 1888. It's about 65 centimetres by 90 centimetres. So pretty big, and I think it sits in a private collection though, don't quote me on that. Monet, he started in early spring in 1888, and he spent several months at Antibes in the south of France, creating a whole range of different paintings. And as you can see, I'm just hitting this big old tree here now with some highlight colours, so taken that dark colour and we've touched it into a little bit of the Cad Yellow to make some highlights. And we'll not kill all that dark colour, but we want to emphasise more on the right hand side of these branches. So if you've got a past master that you would like me to paint, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your views, which painting you want me to try and attempt to do next. It would be fantastic to hear from you. 1914, Monet began to develop cataracts, which is not good for an artist, not good for anybody, but not good for an artist. And on the 5th of December 1926, at the age of 86, Monet died of lung cancer, and at his funeral, over his coffin was draped a black cloth, and a friend of his ripped off the black cloth and replaced it with a bright flower pattern cloth, shouted, "No black for Monet," which is quite fitting to a guy who liked to paint the bright colours of the outdoors and gave birth to the Impressionist movement. Some of Monet's paintings, they've reached over $110.7 million, which is about 98 million euros, or about 85 million pounds, which is eye-watering, which is absolutely eye-watering. And I believe Monet holds the record for the first Impressionist painting to cross the $100 million threshold. Right here on the edge, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm just touching a tiny little bit of bright red. There's a little bit of bright red in Monet's tree, so we'll put a little bit in ours. Just a tiny bit of bright red right here. Some of the edges of these leaves. I don't know if they're fruits or if they're turning leaves, I don't know. We'll clean up the feet of this big old tree. So let me know, how do you think we've done? Do you think Monet would be proud of this one? Do you think he'd give me a pat on the back for this? Let me know your thoughts, and let me know what you want me to paint next. Just tidy up that little bit of bark there. It's annoying me, that one. So a little bit of dark paint. I can drag this down into the grass. Really set him into the painting. And I think we're about ready for a signature. So what we'll do, thin out the red paint with some paint thinner, and just sign it down here. Just initial DCT. I do sign the back of them, but let's go over and compare and contrast both the pictures. So you can see on the left is Monet's and on the right is mine. Let me know what you think, guys, and until next time, do stay safe, take care, happy days.